Hello, my name is Frank Palmisani. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to watch the video, Conquering College Costs. This particular program is a supplement to that video. This is designed for parents of seniors because as a parent of a senior, in the month of October, you're filing the free application for federal student aid. So we're going to walk through that filing screen by screen so that you can use this as an aid when you do it yourself. Now, I want you to make sure that you go to the correct website, FAFSA.gov, and when you get there, as you'll see I am doing now, you look for the 2021-22 school year. That's the year that the student will be in school, in college, the year that your senior will be in college next year. So we're going to do the 2021-22 school year. They ask you to create a save key. You're going to often find that data is saved, and then when you come back to it, you just put in your save key. All right, let's look at the first screen. The first screen on this document that you're going to be completing is student demographic information. So as you can see, I've already done that. Social Security numbers filled out. We've created a mock student first name and last name and a date of birth. Let's go to screen number 2. They're looking for an email address. So let's go ahead and put in an email address so that we can get started. And a telephone number. You're going to want a permanent mailing address. The next question is, have you lived in Illinois for at least 5 years? We'll indicate yes, and we'll also indicate that the student is a U.S. citizen. What will your high school completion status be when you begin college? The student will have a high school diploma. Will the college student be pursuing a bachelor's degree? Yes. Will you have that bachelor's degree before you start? No. And you'll be going in as a first-year college student. Now, the next question is important. They ask, are you interested in federal work study? This is a job on a college campus. Always put yes. Whether you qualify for that particular program, federal work study, you can still perhaps find employment, but the key is getting the FAFSA filed. So always put yes to that question. Are you a male or female? Let's have our student be a male. And you're going to notice that when the student is a male, they have to register with Selective Service. Now, in many cases, there might be some 18-year-olds that are already registered with Selective Service. But if not, if you indicate no, they'll automatically go ahead on the FAFSA document and create that registration. You can't qualify for any assistance if you're a male and not registered with Selective Service. You'll notice I put in no, but then do you want us to register you? And the answer is yes. You'll put in your driver's license and the state. Now, the next set of questions directly relates to whether the student is an independent student. We're not going to be independent, not a foster youth. They ask what degree or what level of education the parents have. And you'll notice every time you get through a category, they save it for you. They want to know the high school you're attending and where that's at. Now, they found all kinds of high schools in our city, so we're going to select one. So now this is a very important category. This is where you list the colleges where you want this information to go. In other words, you're going to complete it. The EFC calculation will be done for you. It'll be sent back to you, but then it'll also be sent to every college you list in this document. And so if you remember from my seminar, they'll allow you to put up to 10, and I would advise you to find 10. Most students don't already have 10 schools they've applied to. That's fine. Continue to stretch them over the next few weeks, months perhaps, but try to go ahead and list as many as you possibly can. Again, up to 10. So we'll just put in one school just so we can get through this relatively quickly. They also ask, is the student going to live at home with a parent, live off campus in an apartment, or live on campus? Now we switch over, and they're asking a question again about the student. It's still demographic information. What is the student's marital status? So obviously single. And these questions specifically relate to whether the students have dependents, so we're answering no. And these questions relate to, is there any of these variables that would be in place where the student could be independent of you? And if you look through these questions, in most cases, it's none of the above. Was the student homeless? No. All right, so we're going to provide information from the parents. Now, I know that parents are filing this document, but they're still looking for the idea that it's the student's form. And so when they say, will you be supplying parent information? Well, you have to supply the parent information unless the student is independent. So the answer to that is yes, you will be providing parent information. Now, you as a parent are likely filing this form, so you're doing it on behalf of your student. What is the parent marital status? They give you several. We're going to say married. And when did the parent get married? And then a parent's Social Security number. And our mock family last name is Celtic. And a parent email. Now, since we indicated married, they want the demographic information for both parents. So now we have the spouse, the second parent. Have your parents lived in Illinois for the last 5 years? We're going to go ahead and assume yes. Now you're going to notice on this screen that a couple of line items are already completed. How many parents are in the family? That's already been determined, so now you don't have to answer that question, it appears. And you've already said you're living with the parents, you belong to this household, so that number's already in there. The student is. But now they ask, are there other people living in the household? Other children? And so we're going to go ahead and indicate, yes, there's another student in the household or another child living in the household. Family of 4. We'll assume a family of 4. And so as you walk down this page, you'll see the 4 is already indicated. And then how many people in the family will be in college in that year between July 2021 and June 30th, 2022? Well, obviously, we have a family of 4. The student, the senior, is going to college, but we're also going to have another student. We could have another student in that family in college. Then we would put 2 in. But for this example, we'll just go ahead and put 1. All right, so now they're asking questions now about the 2019 tax return. Have your parents completed the IRS income tax return? And so, yes, this should be a document you've already completed. What type of return? Normally it's the 1040. And what was your tax filing status? Normally, could be something different, but normally people were married and they filed jointly. Now, the next question is going to be your option. There's something in here called the IRS data retrieval system. If you were to opt for the IRS data retrieval system, it's going to back you out and you're going to have to wait for a code that you'll get in a few days. We're going to avoid that. We're going to actually take the line items from the tax return and we're going to place them on the document itself. You can do it either way. It's my preference that you avoid the data retrieval system, but that's your option. So you'll notice I went ahead and said, move on, go to the next page, but they ask you again. And so we're just going to say no thanks. So now they're looking for a specific line item. When using your 1040, they want you to look at line 8B. That is your adjusted gross income. It used to be the bottom line of the front page of the tax return. In the 2019 tax return, it may not be your bottom line, but it is line 8B. Match it up. Make sure adjusted gross income is the line they're talking about. That's the figure you're going to put in here. We're just going to pretend a particular income amount. Now what they want to do is they want you to separate if there is 2 incomes, parent 1, parent 2. You don't have to be exact here. You do have to be exact when it relates to the adjusted gross income. That's the line item from the tax return. Oftentimes you can look at your W-2s here and put that information in. But even if you put a general amount of income in, that should be fine. It's not a major element in the actual calculation. The AGI is, but the separation of the 2 incomes. Give it a ballpark if you have to, or use the W-2. Now, what they want you to do is go to how much you paid in federal income tax. That's the item you're listing here. If you remember from my seminar, when they create the EFC number and they use the biggest driver, which is parent income, they do take out federal taxes. They internally calculate state taxes and internally calculate FICA. But you do want to get this line item correct. So it's not what you got back at the end of your tax season, it's what you actually paid. Not what you paid in, but your actual tax consequence. So it is line 14 minus Schedule 2, line 2. Find it, could be a little complicated here, find it on your tax return, what your actual tax consequence was, and indicate that on that particular line. All right. Almost all of these are going to be zeros. You can go ahead and read these questions, and obviously if any apply, you'll put in a dollar amount. But in most cases, the great majority of cases, they're zeros, and all of the zeros have already been listed there for you. Is there any child support your parents paid because of divorce or separation as a legal requirement? And so we're going to assume no. Was there co-op money involved? No. Taxable earnings from need-based employment programs? No. All of these will be zeros. Child support received. If it's a divorced household, and the person where the student lives most of the time is filing the document and receiving child support, that gets listed here. We're going to put in 0. And again, most of these questions on this document will be 0, except for this one. Payments to tax-deferred pension and retirement savings plans. So basically what happens is many people might use a 401k or a 403b at work. In the year 2019, if you made a voluntary contribution to a program like that, that is where that information would be recorded. So let's assume that this family did indeed contribute $2,000 to their 401k program. And there were no other untaxed income benefits and no VA benefits. We continue on. What is the parent's total current balance of cash, savings, and checking accounts? So in this line item, it's just that. You're looking at cash, right? You all know what that is. Maybe a checkbook. You're looking at bank accounts that are in savings accounts, checking accounts, all right? So a cash amount. So we'll put in a figure. And then investments. Now notice on this particular line item, on the investment side, you're not to include the equity of your home. And even though it doesn't say it here, it's important. You are not to include the value of any retirement plans you own. If I contribute to my 401k, on the income side, I put in the contribution for 2019. But the total value of my 401k is not listed as an investment. Everything else, though, is listed in this particular category as investment dollars that you do record. Now, do you own a business? You may own a business, but if your business has less than 100 employees, nothing is put in here as a business asset. Do you have an investment farm? If you have an investment farm, less than 100 employees, nothing gets put in. All right, we're continuing on, and now we're talking about the student's financials. So now we're moving to the 2019 tax return for the benefit of the student. Student has completed a tax return. Again, it's a 1040. And the student is single. We're not going to use the data retrieval system. We're going to say no thanks to that. And we're going to put in a modest adjusted gross income that the student might have earned. And in many cases, that's the same amount that will be provided for wages. So it's the same thing. Adjusted gross income and the wages are the same often for students. And in many cases, the students did not pay federal taxes. But you'll look it up and put in the correct dollar amount. Now notice the same questions that appeared for parents appear for students. But almost all of these will be zeros. And so you can walk through each one, but more than likely they're all going to be zeros, and it's already filled out for you. And then again, child support. Well, obviously, child support is not going to be paid out by the student or received. And so these are all zeros. What is the student's total balance in cash, savings, or checking accounts? We'll suggest the student has no dollars in their account, and they also have no investments. As of today, does the student own a business? We're going to put in 0. So believe it or not, we're done. We have just completed the document, and the remaining portion of the document will be the way that you sign it. You get an FSA ID number. That's how you actually sign the document. And the form will take you through that information. And once you feel safe that you've done it correctly, you're going to transmit it. So, bottom line is this. I hope the video helped you, but I hope more than anything else, it maybe relieved a little bit of your anxiety. because as you saw, filing the FAFSA is not difficult. Probably you won't even need to use the video to be able to get through it, but if this video can help you, wonderful. Go back to some of the key principles in conquering college costs, feel confident that you're going through the execution phase, expand the number of schools the student is interested in, try to find those 10 institutions, fill out your FAFSA, indeed confidently. When you receive the result, you're going to notice an EFC number. Please don't panic when you see that number. Remember, that's just one of the data pieces that colleges are going to use to actually create award letters. Do you remember from my presentation, I talked about the 3-column chart? You want to get to column 3. You want to be able to compare out-of-pocket costs. If you do this correctly, and you file the FAFSA in the month of October, and your sons and daughters do their job, what's their job? Their job is to apply to colleges. Maybe they've applied already. Have them continue to apply. 6, 8, 10 different places. Because with the college applications submitted, with transcripts submitted, so colleges can extract the GPA, many colleges today are not using test scores. If you want to send your ACT or SAT test score, that can be done. But many aren't going to use it this year because they're test optional. But once they receive that information and this EFC number, they're going to compose these award letters. And hopefully you're going to get your award letters in the months of January and February. And as I've said in my seminar, that's what you want. You want this kitchen table to be filled March and April so that you'll have a couple of months to really assess all of these options and then determine which colleges are the best from an academic standpoint, which colleges are the best from an atmosphere, from a feel standpoint, and which colleges are the best for your family financially. Best of luck.